So we're still talking about how we get water from one area to the other. In some areas, they don't have the technology available, like we do here in the United States, and so they have to use some more low tech kind of methods. So in this one, you're looking at it's a pump, but it's a pedal powered pump. Um, there are some areas of the world where they simply can't get pumps in, and so there are charities that will donate filters. They can filter groundwater. One of the problems with using groundwater is that if you don't have a well down deep enough, then you're getting a lot of surface contaminants in your water. So having something that they can use to pump water out from deeper down is always much better as far as water quality is concerned. So once again, we look at that reducing the water waste. These look more like what you could personally do in some areas, not necessarily with the design and manufacturing processes, but when you're looking at landscape and drip irrigation and your water leaks and those kind of things, those are things that can happen using the water saving toilets and the shower heads. Sometimes it's just as simple as like putting a brick in the back of if you have an older toilet, you can put a brick in the back and it displaces some of that water and doesn't use as much water each time. So there's lots of different ways that both people and industries can reduce water waste. So we want to make sure that we're not like completely pricing people out of having fair water prices. So they were to increase. Usually, when you increase the price of something, then consumption of it will go down. But it's just finding that balance and making sure that we're not raising the prices so high that there's people who can no longer afford water. We look at ways that we can continue to reduce our water waste. If we're looking at that, how does nature use water and how does water cycle water? Then we can look at using things like natural wastewater treatment plants. They have one down in Gilbert that actually is like it's a wetlands area. They're using to decontaminate water essentially instead of using um, a regular water treatment plant that would use screens and filters and chemicals and stuff like that. The waterless and odorless composting toilets that they not only will it compact the stuff down, it doesn't use water then in the process, but the end result is also a fertilizer that can be used um, safely. Sometimes we have the opposite problem of having not enough water and we have too much water, and that's when we get flooding that occurs. Usually in the United States, this happens in the springtime. So we have areas where there's high amounts of snowfall, and then the temperature is warm, and we get a lot of rain on top of the snowfall, and that causes the rapid snow melt. And then we this happens particularly in the Mississippi River Basin along the Ohio and the Iowa rivers. Um, we tend to get a lot of flooding in those areas. If we do things, those are kinds of things that happen naturally, but we can do things to increase the amount of flooding. When we remove vegetation, vegetation will slow down water. It has friction and it's a barrier basically to the water movement. And if we destroy wetlands, which are a natural absorber of water, if we pave areas, there are areas here in the Phoenix area that were not in a flood zone and now are because people built at a higher elevation than them, and or parking lots got built and pavement. Water no longer absorbs down into that, and all it can do is run off. So floodplains are just that area where the water spills over its banks. Um, Usually they're very productive. I'm sure you all studied Egypt and talked about the Nile and the Nile floodplain. Well, the Mississippi floodplain was the same thing for us here in the United States. It was a reason why people settled along the Mississippi River. But when you settle in floodplains, um, they're a floodplain, and that's where water goes. And so we have to be careful where we choose to put our businesses and homes and things like that in areas that are prone to flooding. So usually they're very productive lands. The silt that comes with the water is usually very nutrient rich. It helps to replenish the soil in those areas. And it does help to recharge the groundwater because the water will flood out over the tops of the plains, and then and it's only there for a while, and then it soaks down, recharges the groundwater. So in some areas, they've built levees or walls to try to kind of channel the river and to keep it out of the floodplain, but that then lessens the productivity of the area and can increase flooding downstream. So just some examples of some flooding areas. So this is St. Louis, Missouri. Um, you have the river coming through there. You can see it in the normal stage and then in the flood stage. This is the Ohio and the Wabash River, so they join up. There's the Wabash River coming down, Ohio River coming across. This is in flood stage, in the normal stage. The snow is still on the ground here. So once again, we've done things that will contribute to that flooding. Some of that flooding is absolutely normal, and that's just the way the ecosystem develops. But things that we have done, when we talk about reducing that amount of vegetation, you're going to have more, not only are you going to have more water reaching the stream, but you're also going to have more sediment reaching the stream, which then makes the channel not as deep, which makes it wider when more water comes in, and so then you end up having more flooding that for that reason as well. We also have water pollution issues that we'll talk about in one of the next ones. So under normal stages, when it's forested, before impacts, the things that we do impact the area. So when we want to reduce some flood damage or that possibility of flooding, we want to make sure that we're protecting the vegetation that normally occurs in those areas, so we're not taking it all away and increasing the amount of water that's moving down into our waterways. Once again, dams can help reduce flooding downstream. However, upstream of the dam will obviously be flooded. So you have to decide where is the most valuable area to protect when building dams. So we've talked about some things to use, how to use water more sustainably and to reduce some of that water loss. Some examples. Here. We talked about the water saving toilets and shower heads and that sort of thing. We didn't talk about some of the other ones, wash your loads of laundry when they're full. Try to use less water if you're washing your car. Watering in the evenings or during the nighttime. Sweeping instead of washing off your driveways. Things like that. Some things that just seem kind of simple or that we just don't really think about or that you might already be